Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Lucas and today what we're going to do is we're going to transfer a Lovable project into Framer, right? So we're going to basically use ChatGPT to create a nice solid prompt for Lovable, right? We're going to be today creating a sign up page for a specific industry. In this case, it's going to be real estate, right? And so ChatGPT is going to create that prompt. We're going to bring that prompt into Lovable and then we're going to use different tools to kind of enhance the design a little bit. Then we're going to bring that design into Framer and we're going to go ahead and try to, make it responsive and also use ChatGPT's new 4.0 to create content for that new site, right? That's going to be on Framer. So without further ado, if this sounds interesting for you guys, go ahead and stick around and let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I want to show you guys is I actually got a lot of information. I basically fed ChatGPT a bunch of information so that it can keep it as in the chat's knowledge base, right? And what I did was I went to Lovable's prompting documentation and I basically copied all of this text. And whenever a video came out, I clicked on the video, copied the link, and brought that link to a YouTube to transcript generator, and then got that transcript and brought it to ChatGPT. So it not only knows all of the text from these documentations, right? It also knows the YouTube videos that are included in these documentations. So basically, like this one, for example. So yeah, basically I wanted to just make sure that my chat can fully or has a good knowledge in terms of creating a good Lovable prompt. So I ended up writing, I want to build a landing page that is meant to collect signups for an upcoming local learning event for realtors in South Florida. So that's kind of the theme here, South Florida, realtors, and a learning event, right? So please provide me with a prompt that includes a structure for the website. So basically it did provide me with that prompt. So it says it gave me like a good command over here to start with, like an overall summary, right? And then the different structure or the structure with the different sections. So hero section, event highlights, about the event, featured speakers and structures, testimonials, event details, registration form, FAQs, footer, right? So it did a pretty great job at this. Plus it also gave us a good, a good outlook in terms of styling as well. So once we have that set, all we'd have to do is just copy and paste this into Lovable. Now there are a few tools here that we can use to enhance our design, right? So if we go to Lovable and we paste in our prompt, we get something like this, where we have the South Florida Realty Rally. I mean, it's not the best, logo, but it's good for this example. We have this, large image fill section, and it is responsive, so that's great. So we have this large image fill section, and then we have this register now button, which basically drops us down over here. Then we have event highlights, about the realty rally, featured speakers, and what attendees are saying, right? So we have different types of attendees and what they're saying, event details. That's great. So it's kind of a solid, structure, but there are a few things that we could fix in terms of the design. So we do have different websites here. So I have this website called Unsection.com, which someone from my community actually, recommended me using, which is amazing, right? So we're going to be looking into different sections here. These are like real websites that have great, in this case, hero sections. And I'm also going to be looking at 21st.dev, where we have a bunch of different, components that we can bring directly into Lovable. And I'm interested in seeing how we can do that, right? So we have, for example, all of these different sections that we can use. We can use something like a call to action, calendar, clients. Well, we won't be really needing that, but maybe something with like maps. Maybe we can look, well, not really, but there's a bunch of different things that we can look into to see what we can use for our project. So one thing we could try is recreating this section. So we have this event highlights section and we just have these like 4 boxes over here. But what we can do is we can go over here and we can kind of recreate it in this style. And we can just copy this image and go to our Lovable, and let's see if we can paste it. Yes, we can paste this image, great. And redesign the event highlights section to look like the attached image. Let's just click on enter. Let's leave it very vague like that. See how that works. Okay, so it did kind of recreate it in a different style, similar to the one that we posted, but not really quite the same. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to 21st Dev. With 21st Dev, I have better luck, usually because we can just click on this, right? We can use something like this for the event highlights. Copy component, copy the prompt for Lovable, right? And we can go back to Lovable and say, let's replace the, let's make the event highlights section look like this. Just enter, paste. So we're gonna basically paste in the snippet so that with that specific layout, right? So let's see how that goes. And it actually did it very well. As you can see, we can hover over these sections and it looks just like the one in 21st Dev. So if you want to go ahead and do that, like basically, you know, edit your Lovable page, the best way in my experience is using 21st Dev. I actually have a video doing a little bit of a deep dive into that, so if you want to check that out, go ahead. But basically we have this, and we can do that to all these different sections, but I want to go ahead and already kind of transfer this into Framer. So once we're ready to do that, we go ahead up here and click on publish, and we go over here, we open this link, which is over here, and now we are ready to kind of bring this into Framer. And the way to do that is I'm gonna basically just use this HTML to Framer Chrome extension. So what you have to just do is just hold down Shift, and you can just click, copy. So we're basically just copying everything, right? Copy. So we have 8 items copied now, 9 items, 10, and 11, right? And now what we can do is just go to Framer and go ahead and paste this in. And we're gonna have something looking like this. Well, I have a pretty big screen, so that's not very ideal. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make this a bit smaller so that it kind of fits the whole thing a little bit better. And we're gonna be making something like this, right? Perfect. So let's go ahead and start from the beginning again. So I'm just gonna close this again, open this again, and hold down Shift and just copy the different sections. So copy this, copy, and we should have at the end about sections, right? Perfect. So we paste that in, and as you can see, if you are a Framer designer and you've been designing sites in Framer like I do, I love Framer with all my heart, you're gonna see that this is, well, you can already start seeing that there's stuff missing here, right? We have this button that's missing, or it's right here actually, but we have to kind of fix it. It's not really working so well. And we have a bunch of frames here, right? We need to turn those frames into stacks. So this here is a stack. I don't know what exactly is a stack here in the, but there's some stack somewhere. Oh yeah, this button is a stack, great. So this button is doing well, but everything else we need to convert it into a stack. Right now it's a frame, and if we were to add a different view breakpoint, so let's add tablet and let's add phone, right? Nothing is responsive, as you can see. Everything kind of stays in the same fixed width, right? So we have to find a way to get every section here and make it responsive by turning it into stacks, right? So we have stack 1, stack 2, so all of these different things are going to be stacks. So before we start making any changes in Framer, I would say the best thing to do here would be to take screenshots of your, Lovable design. So first thing that we can do is just take screenshots of every section, right? Or you can combine two sections at a time, like so. I'm combining the hero section with the navbar, and then just placing them here on the side, right? Because Framer's visual canvas, you can basically paste in images, screenshots, or saved images or copied images, right? You can just paste them in here, which is great because you have the actual, front end over here in the canvas. But here on the side, these are not going to be shown on the website, so you can just keep them here as a reference when you're, designing and creating all these different stacks. So without further ado, let's go ahead and build this first section. So we have a text and we have all of these different texts. We have this image here as well, which is this background image. So I'm just going to move this like this, and I'm going to go back into here because I don't think it worked with bringing in the text from the hero section. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab this, copy, and kind of paste this somewhere. So I pasted it here, and voila, perfect. So now that worked. So we have this text. It's looking pretty big in comparison to the other ones. I just want to make sure that that's the case, that it is so big. It does look like that's the case, right? Maybe that's not really the best way to do it, but let's see. All right, so we have this navbar, right? The best way for me to build a navbar is by using Kompa, right? It's totally for free. You just have to kind of register your email and you're in, right? So using Kompa, perfect, I'm in. If you're not registered, it's gonna ask you to register, which just takes about a minute tops, and then you go here to navbar, and then boom, we're gonna basically just paste in a navbar that we want that is gonna be similar to the navbar that we have here, right? So we're gonna have this one looking great. Let's just put this here for now, and let's move these on the side. So we're gonna go like this and move this like that, and now we're gonna add this navbar in here, and we're gonna make this desktop have a layout, right? So now it is the layout, and let's make sure that these are in its corresponding sizes, so tablet and phone, and boom, we are almost ready with the navbar, right? So we just have to kind of get this text, go into the navbar component, click on unlink and replace all, and basically just paste in this text that we had, remove this logo, and we have to kind of get this as well, copy, let's go paste, and where do we have it here? Let's move this a little bit downwards. Let's get this about text, and so we have these different buttons. So we're gonna call this about speakers. We're gonna call this one speakers. And we don't really need this drop down one, so let's just delete it. And this one is going to be called details, so let's just duplicate this one, call it details. And we don't need this primary one, we can just use this one, and let's just call it register now, right? Register now, right? So we got that, boom, perfect. So let's just go back home, and we can already start seeing that we have a nice navbar. So we can just call this SF, or let's just call it like Miami Realty Rally, so we can keep it shorter. But basically, it's getting there. It's almost. I mean, I would say that the navbar is pretty much done, right? So if we were to go like this, we can see this. Okay, so we gotta just adjust the mobile one a little bit. We don't need these features, right? We don't need this new tag, so we can just remove that. And we don't really need this arrow, so let's just remove that as well, and let's just do it to the other one, and let's just remove it here in the mobile view. So no, and down here no, and same here, no, and no. So that's pretty much it for that. So we have register now everywhere. We are missing the button here in the menu in the mobile version, sorry. So let's set this width to fill, And now we have it, right? So let's go back and make sure, okay, it's looking good. Let's click here in the mobile and we got it, perfect. Okay, so that's like the first version, right? So now, now it's gonna be trickier because we're not gonna use a component for the next steps. We're gonna be actually getting what we have and combining them into stacks and making sure that everything is responsive. So the first thing that we have to do is just click on what we have. So we have this, and we have this. And this is in a stack, which is great. And let's just create a component out of this and let's call it button. So we have the button, and let's just remove these versions, and we can add like a kind of hover state that's not blue, not light blue, but a little bit darker, so that whenever you hover your mouse over it, it's a little bit darker. Perfect. So we got that. And I would say we can use this one. This one seems to be a little bit friendlier in terms of sizing, 24, 12. So let's just take those sizes into account. 24 and 24, because the 32 seems a little bit too big, right? So we got that, perfect. Okay, so now what we have to do is just click this, make sure that these are set to fill, I would say in the beginning, and then let's just get these, right click and add stack. So we're gonna stack this up, and basically now you can start seeing that it's starting to get responsive, right? Because this is its own stack, and you know, it's stacked under the nav bar and it's becoming responsive, right? And this is all set to fill, right? So it's basically filling into the edge of the screen. Okay. All right. So now what we got to do is the following. Let's go ahead and add some spacing everywhere. So we can go ahead and click on the padding. So 120 at the top, I would say. And I would say maybe 120 at the bottom. And let's give it a maybe 40 on the right, 40 on the left type of deal. And I think that this text should be much smaller. We can give it a max width. So max width fixed of around 450, let's say. That's too small. We can increase it to about 600. That might be good. And we could leave this as it is, right? So now look at this. Now it's looking much better, right? And I don't like this background because it's not a building in Miami. So I'm going to be asking ChatGPT to generate an image for me for the background of the hero section. And while ChatGPT generates an image, I don't know if it's going to be good. Let's hope so. But while it generates an image, we're going to basically go ahead and make everything else responsive. So changing the width to fill. Oh, and making sure that these aren't set to something like relative, absolute, sorry. Just gonna make sure that everything here is set to a kind of relative position, right? So let's just make sure to see what's the problem here. We can maybe move this in here, and no, that's not the case. Okay, probably we just have to make this into a layout, right? Perfect. So let's make this into a layout, make this like this. Okay, and then we're gonna have these different frames here, right? Let's just delete them all, or just leave one, and then we're gonna use the other ones as a type of like a type of example that we can just duplicate it and just replace the text, right? So we're going to be doing that. So let's just get this part. Let's bring that to the top. Let's bring this frame to the bottom. So this would have to go here, right? If we go back to our example, how's that looking like? Yeah, we have this register now on the bottom. By the way, ChatGPT generated this. I'm not sure if I like it so much. It looks kind of cheesy, but yeah, maybe we need like a type of city view, right? So we can let's make it look like a photorealistic view of Miami skyline. something like that. So we can do that, and then we can go back here and go ahead and work on this. So we can grab these two, they're relative, right? Because now their upper stack, or their, you know, parent stack is a layout. It's not a frame anymore, it's a stack. And we can go ahead and make sure that all of these things are going to be responsive as well. So these are set to fill. That's great. Let's right click and add a stack to this so that it's its own stack. Let's make sure that this is also a stack. So we can go ahead and do that by clicking on layout, making sure that this is going upwards like this. And this frame over here, we have it on the side. So what we can do is we can bring this together with this markets insight, add stack, make sure that it's going like this. And we can, for example, make sure that this one is set to fill, right? So this goes all the way that way, right? So we have that. We can set this one to fill as well. And we have something like this going. Now, I'm just thinking about the best way to do this. I think that we can move this in here, put these together into its own stack, and make it go upwards like this. And now just get this and kind of distribute to the start, or top align it. Yeah, perfect. Now we get this, and we get the height set to fit content, and we can get the width as well. No, the width can stay like this for now, and the padding on the top maybe a little bit higher, like 20, right? Something like that. And now we have this stack, and we can duplicate it 4 more times, and we can get these stacks and basically create a new stack out of that, horizontally aligned, and each one can be set to a fill width instead of a fixed width, right? So we have that, and now, and this button now, well, we can use this button, so we can duplicate this button from the start and bring it down here and remove this button, right? So now we have this nice different stack of things here. We have this text stack over here, so we can just double click and call it text. This one can be called the cards, right? So we have the text and the cards, and then we have this like event highlights. And as you can see, the event highlights has a very big space here and there because the height is set to fixed, so we just have to set it to fit content. And let's just add some padding like we did with the hero section, about 120. Maybe we can make it a little bit less, like 60, and 60 at the bottom, and 40 in the right and left, right? So if I were to now see the different sizes, perfect, we got these going good. I would probably make them, turn this into a grid somehow, and this one, maybe making it look like this would be better, right? So that looks actually pretty cool. Okay, so we got that going. That's looking good. Now, just curious to see something. No, let's just keep it like this. And maybe for the right side, we add some padding, 10, so that there's a little bit space here, right? Okay, so that's looking good. So it's looking more and more responsive everywhere, right? As you can see, it's kind of crammed in the mobile version because we have a 40 padding on the left and right. Let's actually reduce that to something like 20. So there's a little bit more room to breathe. And in the H1, we can obviously just drop the size a bit to like 54. And here, let's just reduce that padding on the right and left to something like that, right? So it's starting to look more like it. And like I said before, we can turn this into a grid. So just by clicking that, we have a grid that works, right? And now comes the interesting part. In Lovable, we had this, well, first of all, let's see this. This looks actually pretty cool. In Lovable, we had this thing, right? So we had actually an icon on the top, and we have this nice little kind of hover effect. So what we can do is we can actually get this card stack and turn it into a component, call it a card. And in the hover state, this can be a little bit larger, Oops, let me go back. It can be a little bit larger, and it can be a different color, right? It can be that blue color that we can get here. What color is that? So let's just save it. Call it something like sky blue, and then go back home. Go back in here and color this that sky blue color. So if I were to go back home and preview, it's going to start looking more like the example that we had in Lovable, right? So going back here, we can actually see something like that, right? So that's what we need to do. Now, in order to get that right, let's just delete all of these and let's use this card. Let's duplicate it again 3 more times. It's gonna basically, you know, here's gonna be a grid, here it's gonna be a stack going vertically, so it's going to look nice. Yeah, let's maybe make sure that here the text and the cards are together in its own stack called top, so that there's a little bit more of a space here. So we can just go here and add a little bit more of a gap, something like 40. So we have this event highlights, we have these different cards, and then we have this gap over here. Perfect. So that would be kind of that hard part to do it, right? That hard section to build in Framer. But you know, you kind of got it. And basically the whole idea now is to do it to the whole page. So yeah, I'm just going to continue building this website. So I already made this section, which was pretty easy. It's all about, you know, adding stacks and making sure that everything is like fill width and fit height mostly. So basically make this fill, you know, a stack by clicking on layout, making sure that these are fill for now, right? And then just going here, turning this into a layout, giving this, you know, a fixed height would be good, but just making sure that everything here is set to fill. And before we do that, let's make sure that this is set to give it a layout, right? Make it left aligned, make sure that all of these are fill, and then we can go ahead and style it by adding some fit content height and some padding, like 20, right? Maybe on the top would be a little bit less. But you can already start seeing how this would look like. Height would be set to fit content height, and then the fill, this would be set to fill. And actually, before we do that, let's make sure that the image is not an aspect ratio. So now we can go ahead and duplicate these a few times. And once we duplicate them, add them to its own stack, that's going to be horizontally aligned, right? And now all of these can be set to fill. So it's just a matter of just like kind of seeing how I do it. And as you can see, I just try to make sure that everything is fill, everything's in a stack, and all the contents are set to fill. And whenever they're like reaching the border, give it a padding, set the heights to fit as well, right? As a beginner, it might be a little bit confusing, but it's just adding boxes to things and giving spacing, right? So we have something like this. Now this main stack, where is it? This main stack over here can have a fit content height. And as you can see, what's the next thing? Add some padding, 60, 60, 60 in the top, 60 in the bottom, 40 on the right and left, can work, right? 40, 40, and we have something good. And then here we can give it a grid, and here we can just make sure that it's going downwards like that, right? And obviously in the phone, like we said before, making sure that this is set to 20, not so cramped, right? So now we have a good, you know, layout. We just obviously have to replace the images, but that's something that we can do at the very end, right? So whenever you see a frame, just convert it into a layout, and then everything is going to be easier from there, right? Just set the you know, the direction of where how it's supposed to look like. If you scroll down here, okay, so this is going to be on the top, then comes this, then comes the rest. So we just make sure that it's looking like that, and let's just align it left, right? Left align, perfect. It's looking good. Obviously this is going to be a different color, so let's just make it this sky blue. Perfect. So now this would be the first stack. And then we just duplicate this 3 more times, this to its own stack, and make sure that it's going like this, right? And then give it like some type of space like that. And also make sure that each one of these stacks has a good amount of padding inside, right? So it's looking good, and making sure that the height is set to fit, right? So now you can see that it's starting to look good. We can get this as well, put these 2 texts into its own stack, and make sure that the gap here is a little bit larger. And the parent layer, which is this one, wait, is it? This one, let's make sure that it's set to fit content, and top 60, bottom 60, oops, not 760, and 40, 40. And then we just go ahead and look at the mobile really quick and see how that's looking like. So for the tablet, let's make sure that these texts are also set to fill and not fixed. That was the problem here. So let's just get all of these and make sure that they're fill. So with fill, beautiful. And it's okay, it's looking not bad in the tablet. Here it has to look like this, right? And you can start seeing that these frames have to be height fit content and not fixed. Perfect. So now we can start seeing everything. Great. All right, so let's move on. I'm gonna just move on and start, finishing with all of this layout stuff. Okay, and for this one, as you notice, I deleted all of these. I set this into its stack and I adjusted the position to kind of match everything that it's supposed to match. So these 2 go on the very top. Let's just set these to a fill width, right? And then this one, let's just set them all to a fill width in the beginning. What's included, and I stack these up together. So let's just set that to a fill width as well. Okay, and now what we have, okay, let's set this to a fit content height. Perfect. Okay, so now if we go back here, what we can do is we can take a nice screenshot like we did before and kind of set that up inside of Framer, right? Perfect. So we have this on the left side as an orientation, and let's just add stack. This would be the title text, so let's put title. And then we have column 1, column 2. So column 1 would be these guys, so let's add stack. And then the next one would be these guys, so let's add stack. And then these stacks, this one is going to be the left one, this one is going to be the right one, and then we just get them both, add a stack, and this stack is going to be, horizontally aligned. And now this is kind of like the first step that we want to have. So let's just make sure that this is start, and let's go ahead and add some padding here. So we want this to be fill actually, and then we can add some padding, top 60, bottom 60, right 40, left 40. Perfect. Okay, and then we have the different dates. We can just go ahead and go into our thing here and grab that date, so we can just paste it here. We can do like something like a shift enter, and we need this location, Miami Beach Convention Center. Pretty nice. Shift enter, and then yeah, so we have the semi-bold. We can set it to another style like regular. So in Framer you have this nice, visual flexibility when it comes to design. That's why I like to bring this stuff to Framer. And we can align this to the top. We can add way more points, right? Let's say we have like that many points. And then what we can do is we can go to the very top of this and add some gap here, something like that. And then we can also make sure that this left one can be kind of like fit content instead of fill. Well, maybe not, but maybe we can make these things fit the content. Just trying to test the waters here and make sure that this is kind of like left aligned and it's not fill, but it's fit. And as you can start seeing, it's starting to look differently. And then we can just get all of these guys. So let's just do it from the layers panel because it's going to be quicker. We can get all of these and set them also to like a fit content, and get the top one and also set this to fit. And then you can start seeing that it's starting to align center in the center. We could just add some gap here and, you know, basically do that. So that's one way of doing it. It's looking good in the tablet and the phone. Well, in the phone, again, you know, decreasing this to about 20 on the left and right, and then maybe doing this like something like that, right? And maybe even center aligning it. I don't know, however you want. Okay, so yeah, that's for that one. That's like for, you know, layouts like this. And now comes the next section, which is the form, which is a bit more complicated because, you know, we can't really make a form like this, like we were doing with the rest of the things. We have to add, you know, something like a form from here, or we can use Framer forms by insert frame, which is a great form builder. But we can use for today the standard form builder from Framer. So I'm just going to delete this, and I'm going to go ahead and do this whole responsiveness. So adding the layout like that, making these fill, right? Making this fit the content, right? Perfect. Relative, I don't like relative, honestly. And now what we can do is we have these things. So let's just create a stack for the text. Go like that, call it text. So I usually name my layers when it comes to client work, but for these YouTube videos, I just, you know, try to do this to show you guys. So not contact, we want form, right? Form, and then I'm just gonna go like that, boom. So we have our form. And let's give it like a nice width like this for now, a nice fixed width. And we're going to click on this upper stack. So this form has to kind of go inside of this, make sure that it's inside, boom, right? Now we get the stack, let's add some of the gap, about 40. Let's make this submit button blue already, so we can go ahead and double click this. And you can do that by just clicking on the fill and making sure that this is blue. For the hover, you just click on blue and make something a little bit darker like that. And same here, let's just use this, perfect. So these are the different states. Once it's loading, once it's disabled, once it's success, and once there's an error, right? So that's great. We have this, and we can put, instead of submit, we can put like something like reserve my spot, right? So reserve my spot. Boom, beautiful. So we have reserve my spot, and now we're gonna edit this. So as you can see on the left column, we have the form with a specific type of icon, right? That looks like a form, and then we have labels with an L, and then we have the button, right? And then if you click on this form stack, you can go here and see where you want to send this the form results, right? You can send it directly to your email. You could send it as a webhook, right, to integrate into different places, or you can send it to a Google Sheets list, right? So in this case, we could send it to my email, and I'll just add my email information later. But here now in these different labels, we can edit the different things. So we're gonna call this full name, right? And we're just gonna use this random name. We have the email address, which is great. So email address. Then we have the next label, which is the phone, right? Is it the phone number? Yeah, so phone number. So we're gonna select this and we're gonna call this phone number. And we gotta be careful here. So if I click on this label, we have to make sure that, actually, let me see, it's here. Yeah, we have to make sure that this is a phone number, right? And let's call this phone number. And instead of the placeholder being like this, an email, we can put like some 305 555 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So now when once Framer sends you the results, it's not going to send it as an email address, it's going to send it as a phone number because it recognizes that, right? And we're going to do the same thing here. We're not going to use location. Here they gave us the location example, so we're just going to call this brokerage. And what's cool about the forms and Framer is that you can add different types of options. In this case, we're not really going to do that. And this is not optional, by the way, so we're going to call this brokerage optional. So we're just, you know, rebuilding this form from scratch, which is fine. And all right, so let's see how we do this. What we can also do is we can just duplicate this and we can just delete this and call this, you know, brokerage optional, and make this not required and give this like some text and call this brokerage. So you can add a custom field, which is nice. And then we're going to call this one your real estate brokerage. Perfect. And then under this text, we want to have this text. So I'm just going to get this, duplicate it, and move it under the button, and go back into my Lovable project and just copy this text and paste it in here. Right, as easy as that. Boom. And yeah, let's just make sure that it's fill width. Perfect. And let's make sure that it's like this. We can give it some line height. And yeah, we got our nice Framer form. So let's make these black as we have them in Lovable. Right now they're a gray color. Let's just turn them a little bit darker. And now we got our form looking good. Give it a nice border. That's much lighter, and maybe with the border radius like that. Boom. That's looking great, guys. So we have our Framer form. Now let's move on to the next thing. And by the way, you can already start seeing that it is responsive. Let's make sure that this has some padding up and down so it's not so, you know, crammed up. Again, here 40, and then in the mobile we have to just change it to something like 20. So in the mobile it's looking like this, and as you can see, it's not set to fill. So what we can do is we can set this to fill. So instead of fix, we set it to fill, but then we give it a max width. So we can go here, max width, and give it like something like 500, and it's gonna have a max width of 500 pixels. So it's already gonna start filling up the whole thing until it reaches 500 pixels, which looks great. So looking something like that, beautiful. We're almost done, and it's only been like half an hour or something. Now for the FAQ, since we would like this to be kind of, you know, interactive, if we go down here, you can see that this is interactive. Instead of building this from scratch, I would just use Kompa. So we can just go bring in something like this and just replace the text, right? So we can go like this, paste this in, and finish it up like that, right? Very, very easy. I really love Kompa for this. Kompa does a great job at this. We can adjust this, remove this, you know, make it fill width, or we can just increase the max width to something like 800, right? And all you'd have to do is just replace the content. So how much does it cost to attend? For example, we can go here and fill it up here, right? And if you need any more questions, any more rows, you can just add them over here. And now for the final part, which is the footer, right? Let's just copy all of these texts or select them and add them into their own different stacks. So I'm just getting these, right? These are gonna be in their own stacks, right? Setting them to fit content at first. Just organizing everything to make sure that we have a good starting point. Fit content. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this frame over here. And actually we're gonna get this and create a layout. And we're gonna get this frame and also create a layout. So let's just get that layout, boom. Let's make sure that it's going like this. So this one at the bottom is already looking well, looking fine. And let's just delete these icons for now. And let's get these text stacks and kind of make them, give them their own stack as well. So add stack, going horizontally, and making sure that they're not fit content anymore, but fill, right? Let's make sure that they're fill. And what we can do is we can make sure that this is kind of upwards aligned like that, and make sure that everything is just organized nice and neat, right? Making sure that it's looking like this, making sure this is looking like this. So, and then at the end, just making sure that this has a fit content height, and the padding, like always, something like 60, 60, 40, 40, and then in the phone, just adjusting that a little bit, right? So we're having a really nice design here, and just going like that, right? And then I think in the bottom we don't really need a padding. We can do something like this. And then as you can see, there's like spaces here. What you just gotta do is just go up here and remove that gap from that main desktop frame. And then let's just make sure that everything here is looking good. Making sure that this is kind of going downwards, increasing the gap a little bit for the phone, making sure that this is set to fill, not fixed. And we're looking good. Yeah, perfect. I think that this is basically the very end. And now the next part would be to basically add the different content from ChatGPT, right? To basically just replace everything. But other than that, that's the whole process. That's the process from bringing something from Lovable into Framer. So I hope you guys enjoyed that process. If you did, please feel free to like and subscribe for my videos. I know a lot of you that are viewing my videos are not subscribed yet, so that would, you know, benefit myself and my business a lot to create more of this amazing content for you. And yeah, hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions also in regards to what type of videos you want to watch, please feel free to write that down in the comments below. And yeah, hope you guys learned something today, and hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.